It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
But as we're talking about CDs being the reason that people often buy them is because they're afraid.
Yeah.
And I think the financial market has recognized that, man, if I can play on people's fear, perhaps we can sell them things. Perhaps we can get them to make decisions. And that's what we think the third thing that wealthy, affluent millionaires do not invest in is fear products.
Yeah, because look, there's a high cost to that safety. We know we talk about the efficient frontier. And guys, here, just to give you some basic understanding, you know, in the basic component of investing, the more risk you take, the expected payoff is higher. I mean, you see this with real estate, you see this with businesses, you see this with investing in financial markets. The more risk you take, you better get a premium for taking that risk. Well, on the other side, there are products that say, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're not going to go try to get you a premium for the risk you're taking. We're actually going to take out all
the
risk whatsoever. But you have to understand, there is a high cost to that as well. And that's kind of what we want to talk about, because there's two fear products that came quick to mind when we were doing this show preparation. The first one, look, we've been talking about this since 2010, 2011. I can't remember when, but gold.
Gold, yep.
Now, gold is one of those things. You can touch it. It's shiny. It's pretty. It's something that makes you, this has always been the long-term holder of value when people are panicking.
Sure.
Warren Buffett has done so many discussions on gold where you could fill up a stadium, you could look at it and go admire this big mountain of gold that's in the baseball stadium, but you come back 10 years later, you go look at it, and it's not like it's grown.
Nope.
It's not like it innovated. It's not like it creates income or rent. It's actually, you probably had to pay rent to hold it and house it in this stadium. It's still going to be the shiny nugget of mountain of gold that you left it there 10 years earlier. Well, we want to talk about what happens. And I've been doing this since, was this 2010? I mean, look how scared I was.
You
talking about the
fear
fear.
products. This is we were doing YouTube before it was cool to do YouTube back then, and I think it's awesome. And look, I mean, we actually, instead of using it, like we have a TV back here behind me now.
Well, but we put it on the screen
too.
We were not
I think
that
we're
smart
just
back
sitting at my desk, and that's like my computer screen. I'd say we've come a long way since then. But even though our show and the appearance has changed, the advice that we give is still not changed. Even a decade ago, and I mean, how many things have happened in the last decade when we think about changes in administration and Eurozone crisis and pandemics and all the things that have happened, and yet the advice has not changed. I feel like the time that I most often see gold promoted, the time that I most often see people really, really pushing it, are when folks are scared.
Yeah.
I think it's, everyone says, oh, well, look at what the price of gold has done. They are normally saying that in the midst of uncertainty, in the middle of a time when things are not going according to plan.
So we put together the numbers to see what has gold done over an extended period of time. And we did it 40 years.
Yep.
And if you look at this, it is kind of amazing because we took an ounce of gold, which is $594, right?
Back in
$595 bucks in 1980. And it's pretty exciting. I mean, if you look at what it did over the next 40 years, it grew to $1,876.
So again, if you're
tripled.
if you're of that mindset,
Over triple.
I had $600 then, and now I have almost $1,900. That sounds pretty good. You're like, okay, great, my money grew. Gold was a good investment. Gold made me money. Gold was a prudent thing for me to invest in. But that's only if you don't know the rest of the story.
Yeah, because the S&P 500 biggest companies in the United States, and it changes, by the way. It's not static because we know things are changing as times evolve. I mean, we know like last year, Tesla got added to the S&P 500. Yep. This thing's always getting updated. But look at this, $595, if you just bought into the S&P 500 in 1980, it would now be worth over $62,000. Now that makes that $1,876 seem teeny tiny.
Yeah, so what did we say? It was almost like 3 to 4 times that money turned over. And yet, with the S&P 500, the opportunity cost, had you elected to invest in gold, your money would not have turned over 105 times. A lot of times we talk about risk. We talk about the risks that we see. We don't often talk about the risk that we can't see, which is the opportunity cost of what we're doing with our army of dollar bills.
Well, I'm betting on humankind. I mean, if you want to know how can you guys feel so certain that markets, because man, that looks like that over that 40-year period, that looks like it was a great time to be an investor. How about, was that a one-off? Are we done after that 40-year period? Guys, I'm telling you, I'm investing, I'm betting on humankind because we keep expanding, and by the way, it's accelerating. I want you to understand, we always as humans think very linear. We think in, hey, 8% this year, 9%, in those type of terms. I'm talking about exponential innovation. You, once again, I'm going to repeat it, have an opportunity to be a part of that expansion. The problem when you buy fear products, you don't get all that. You're basically, when you buy gold, you get a shiny piece of metal that you probably have to pay somebody to keep safe. It's not going to innovate. It's not going to create income. You have to worry about those things. And that leads to the next opportunity cost, because this takes everything positive I'm telling you about mankind, investing in innovation, investing in this market, and it kind of tries to make you feel like you're getting all of those negatives that gold has. This next product fixes it.
That's right.
With these equity indexed annuities, because here's what they tell you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the sales pitch. Is they're like, man, wouldn't you like to invest in the innovation, the ever-growing economy of the financial markets without the risk?
So I want you to have the opportunity to make the money, but you have no risk of losing. I remember back, Brian, when we started working together back in 2008, we had a conversation around this has to have been the easiest product in the world to sell. Because I still remember, do you remember the ratchet thing?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to go. But it can't go back down. You make money, but it can't go back down. That's like a ratcheted up return.
And so when you talk to someone who has recently come through the dot-com bubble bursting, or has recently come through the Great Recession, or has recently come through a pandemic downturn, you start to say, hey, you know how painful that was? Maybe you were misallocated, you had your risk in the wrong place. That painful fall that you had, what if I could take that away for you? What if I could completely inoculate you from that? And I have one product you can buy that will give you the upside, but not make you have to suffer any of the downside. It sounds too good to be true.
Well, that's because, look, once again, I explained, there is always, if somebody tells you they have a product that's going to take the risk out of things, there is going to be a high premium on that safety. That's the only way they can do it. They're either going to restrict your access, meaning they can control your behavior by not letting you touch your money for 10 years while they go and invest it, by the way. What do you think? These people who are harbingers of, I'm going to keep your money safe, after you give them the money, what do you think they do with it? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
Yeah.
They go and invest it.
They do exactly what you could do on your own.
You could do this yourself, but they're going to give you the premium of being safe, the peace of mind that comes with it. Meanwhile, they're going to go put it out in the financial markets, make what the financial markets make, pay you what they've told you they'd pay you, and pocket the difference.
Yep.
That's really how this works. So when we talk about equity index annuities, I want to talk about the concept of the only way they can offer you that premium of the ratchet, where it only goes up, keeps going up, but never goes down, is that you have to give up something.
That's right.
And here's what you give up. They cap what you make in the good years. So it's very common that you will typically see the cap somewhere up to like 7%. So in those years where the financial markets make 20%, you make 7%. I mean, that's how they do it. And they get to keep that extra rate of return, but that still sounds good because you're like, I'm not greedy.
That's right.
If I can make 7% every
Sounds great.
year, who cares if they're keeping the excess? Because at least I got to get my 7% rate of return in most of those years.
And so what we want to do is kind of walk through a very simplified example. Now, there are a lot of things we're not even factoring in here. We're not factoring in fees. We know that these things are expensive. We're not factoring in commissions. We're not factoring in participation rates, which they say, okay, I'm not only going to cap it, but you only get 50% of what the market
withdrawal
makes.
periods, surrender periods, and other things. All kind of things that we're not. We just want to talk about the basic concept to make it as simple as possible, so you could see if it was just as easy as I never can lose, meaning in down markets I don't lose, but in good markets I get everything up to 7, I don't get anything over 7. What does that actually look like?
And so let's assume you bought one of these products in 1990 and you were able to select, I just want this to invest in the S&P 500. By the way, even that, I don't know if you've looked at these products recently. It's even complicated how you select the investments. Do I want an S&P month-to-month product? Do I want an S&P year-to-year product? Do I want a different index? They don't make it easy. But again, we're oversimplifying this illustration to show you a picture. And this is what the picture is. In the white or the silver right there, you can see the S&P 500 from 1990 all the way through 2020.
Looks like an EKG.
It does. There's ups and there's downs, and there's ups and there's downs. And some of the downs even go negative. They drop below 0. They go into the negative territory. And then you have your equity index annuity, which is depicted by the orange. And you can see it's kind of like a little stair step, and it never goes down. It only stays positive, or sometimes it'll go to 0, but it never actually goes negative. So if you were to ask two investors, hey, take your money, take your retirement, take your army of dollar bills, which one of these two would you rather have? And if I was an annuity salesman, I'd say, hey, I want to draw your attention to the 2000s in the early part, or the 2008, or maybe there in the 2018. I want to draw your attention there. When you look at these two, what you'd rather have? And I think their answer might be, I don't know, that orange one feels a little safer.
Yeah,
it just feels like
look,
it's a little
it
more of a
always
steady
makes
ride.
money. I don't really have to worry about losing. I'm going to make money, and I'm not greedy, so 7% sounds pretty daggum good to me. Here's the problem, guys. When you stack this up over that 30-year period of investing, and think about it, that's how long we're typically a saver for retirement. You're saving for 30 to 40 years.
Yep.
So this could be over your savings career, to build up financial assets for retirement. The equity index annuity is going to be under 5%, not taking into account fees, commissions, or any of that stuff. This is just the simple
a return,
concept
the
of doing a
performance.
mathematical calculation of the concept, while the S&P 500 during that same 30-year period was over 10%. That spread, that doubling, is huge for wealth building. So that's the part. I want you to know there's an extreme cost, an extreme premium for what you feel like is safety, but there's actually a lot of cost to your army of dollar bills when you go for those fear-based products.
Now, again, one of the things I love, Brian, is that we've been doing the show long enough. You get to kind of go fact check us if you want. You can go out and listen to podcasts dating back to 2006. You can go watch videos dating back for the past couple of years out on YouTube. So we actually did a full episode if you want to do a deep dive on annuities, and it was called The Harsh Truth About Annuities. So you can go to YouTube and just type in YouTube, Harsh Truth About Annuities, or go to moneyguide.com and type that in. If you want a deeper dive where we kind of dive into this even more, go check out that show. It's out there and available, and you'll see that the advice, the counsel, the guidance does not change as it relates to those types of products.
Yeah, it might make you feel good in the short term. Your long-term self will not love the results, so keep that in mind.
Yep.